What's up? It's Tyler Davis with Lux Cars and Coffee and Car Talks. Today we're here with Chef Joni. You've probably seen him all over your TikTok, whether it's working on his cars or reviewing restaurants here in Arizona. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, Tyler.
Of course. So we're sitting here in your 360. Want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so I got this a few months ago. It's a year 2000 Ferrari 360. It's always kind of been one of those cars that were on my list to buy, just because I distinctly remember on my 9th birthday, my mom, she came home from work and she brought one of those, like, you know, those kits that you build, like you glue all the parts together, you paint them and everything.
Yep.
And I remember painting it yellow because there was a scene in the movie Boiler Room where they argue over the color of the 355, whether it should be red or yellow.
Yep.
And I always sided with the yellow side. And so I'd see like Ferraris driving around that were red because red's the most common. And I would always think like yellow's the color. And so when I was shopping, I knew I had to get a yellow one. And just because of like the nostalgia, I knew I wanted a 360.
So is that what got you into cars originally? Just seeing the movies, the model cars, things like that?
Yeah, I've always been like, I've always tinkered with stuff, like even from a young age. But I think the biggest influence was my brother. My brother's 9 years older than me, and his first car was a 300ZX.
Yep.
And he eventually upgraded to a twin turbo 300ZX. And he like completely raced it out. Like he had Lambo doors on it.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was tuned. It had the still-in body kit, blow-off valve and everything. And I just remember him picking me up from school, and like, you know, he would race out of the parking lot. The blow-off valve would hit, and it was just like so fast and the furious that it was just like, I just remember dreaming of having a 300ZX. And so I think in 2016 I ended up buying a twin turbo Z. Had like 150,000 miles on it. It was black on black. And I built that, but then I ended up selling it. But that was before I was on social media, so I don't really have
any
like,
pictures or anything?
I have some pictures of it, but I don't have like footage of like the build and all that stuff.
So you had that 300, then you transitioned, you were telling me, into BMWs after, right?
Yeah, so my first car was a Jeep. I had a 2001 Jeep that I bought from an old lady. It had like 55,000 miles, but the heater core was blown. So we bought it for like $6,500, and this is like in 2011 or something. And so I pulled the dash, redid the heater core and everything, and I immediately had like a $10,000 car. But then I got into real estate, and a Jeep in Arizona is just not practical. So I ended up getting a 325i, and it was like a deep forest green with tan leather, and I love that car. But then I bought a 5 Series, just a base 5 Series as like my daily driver. And then I got into the N54 platform. And so I got a 335, and then I had a 535. And so I just kind of, I went down that path with cars. Yeah. And about a year ago, I just sold all of them. I was like, all right, I'm done with these things.
Done with those. And then you picked up the G-Wagon at the time?
Yeah, I got the G-Wagon in 2018. I switched my 5 Series daily driver to the G-Wagon, and I drove that a ton. And then I ended up buying my Super Duty.
And you touched on it there, the real estate aspect, but on your Instagram, your Chef Joni, you go through and you review restaurants in Arizona. Is that just a passion project, or were you ever in the culinary space?
Never had like any official training or anything like that. I usually just like cook for our guests. Like whenever we host, I always have like this big spread. And so my name originally started as Champagne Joni. Like, I copied it from Drake. I made it my own. And so people always used to call me that. But then, you know, people would come over, and I've got ribs, mac and cheese, all this stuff. So people called me Chef Joni when I was at home.
Exactly.
And when I started on social media, it was 2019. I was just doing vlogs of, I was going to open mic nights for stand-up comedy.
And you were doing open mics?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was doing vlogs of like my journey. And like I wanted to do open mics and stand-up comedy for a few reasons. Like I felt like it was good sales training.
Yeah.
Like stand-up comedy is one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Oh, I could imagine.
But then COVID hit, and they closed down all the open mics. So like I kind of ran out of stuff to do on the vlogs. Like it wasn't as interesting to just like, you vlog
your
down
daily
and
life
stuff like
and
that.
whatnot, yeah.
And so I switched to doing some like real estate content and stuff like that, but I hated doing real estate content. So then I started doing the car content in long form on YouTube. So I was doing I was detailing my car, doing wash and talks, like if you've ever seen Obsessed Garage, doing that kind of stuff, building cars. And then in 2023, I was getting to the point where I was ready to give up because I was getting like 200 views on my videos. And I had posted over 1,000 videos at this point. Like sometimes I was posting daily.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't working. And I remember in April of 23, my wife was like, I think you should lean into the food stuff a little bit more. Like, you love that stuff. Like, everybody that knows us is like way more interested in that than the car stuff.
Yep.
And she was like, I think that's a better way to bring people into your world than cars. And so I was like, all right. So I just started making videos. I was making a video of the outdoor kitchen that we were building. And it just started getting traction, blowing up. I did a video of like putting my hot Cheetos in the freezer. And that went like crazy viral.
Did it really?
So then I was like, all right, I'm gonna start posting 2 or 3 times a day, short form, ditch the long form. And like ever since then, my channel just took off. And then recently I started editing like dad content, Ferrari content, stuff like that.
So it's pretty interesting because Alina and I, our favorite restaurant is Arboleda.
Oh yeah, I love that place.
I remember you posted something, and this is what stood out to me. You said, I'm going to the most exclusive restaurant in Arizona, Arboleda. And then you continued on that trend of going to the most exclusive bagel shop. Was there a theory behind that? Was it to catch the attention, or is...
Yeah, the most important part on short form is the first 3 seconds of your video. And so you want to get people fired up. And sometimes the best way to get people fired up is in a negative way. And so, like, when you say something people will disagree with, it's an easy way to get comments and stuff like that.
100%.
But also when you say like the most exclusive, people are intrigued because they're gonna, they want to be like, oh no, this isn't the most exclusive or whatever. It's like that. And so I realized, like, so when I went, and Arboleda is far from exclusive, right? Like it's
it's a great restaurant.
It's a great restaurant.
Check it out.
And so I try to use like inflammatory stuff like that just to get attention. And it works. And so I realized how well the exclusive thing worked with Arboleda, so I just kept doing it. And now, even if I post a video on my car, people will be like, "Oh, this is the most exclusive exhaust." It just fired them up so much that they're that involved in it. So.
And I think that's super cool. The way you've transitioned in was really stood out to me as well, because you started out restaurants. At least from my perspective as a consumer, I started out seeing the restaurants and you taking the car out. Then I got to see the build journey of you taking the car out, building it. And so can you talk a little bit about that? Obviously you work on your own car and build content around that as well.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I did really well in the beginning is I stayed like in the niche. I was doing recipes every day. I was cooking all my Blackstone, my Traeger, all that stuff. And that's why the people were on my channel. They wanted to see that. But then I realized people started to get to know me and wonder about me, like what I do for a living and stuff like that. And so it becomes exhausting working on a single niche, because it's only so many videos you can make that like you're actually passionate about in a single niche before you're just forcing out content. And so I took a risk. I was like, you know what? Like, people want to know more about me. They're asking in the comments and stuff. I'm buying this Ferrari. It's kind of a big life event for me because it's been a dream for a long time. And so let me give it a try. And, I don't want to say thankfully, but thankfully Lappin crashed my Ferrari, because I think that helped the transition a ton, because it was just such a great first 3 seconds. Like, the dealer crashed my Ferrari,
Exactly.
And so that video started doing well. And I think it got people bought into the build. They wanted to see, like, oh, like, what's it like buying a cheap Ferrari and building it? Like, what kind of parts are out there, that kind of stuff. And so I think it just, like, the transition just worked out really well. And so it got me thinking, like, I think, like, the whole theory behind my channel is, if I'm interested in it, somebody else out there is interested in it.
Definitely.
So it doesn't have to just be food or restaurants. It can be cars. It could be what I'm experiencing as a dad, like, where I'm going on vacation, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I've noticed that with like my social media. I was doing the real estate content and it just got boring, no views. I didn't enjoy it. Now that I'm doing the content that's like, for me, I love cars, I love going out, restaurants, things like that.
Exactly.
People are more interested in the things you're interested in. They don't want to be sold or whatever.
Yeah. No, like I didn't want to go to work when I was making videos. Like I'm a creative. Like I know my videos aren't the most like edited and creative, but like still there's a creative process that goes into my videos.
Definitely.
That I enjoy and fires me up.
And talk about your experience with real estate, because I find that super interesting. Being that I'm in real estate, you started out as an agent, similar age. I started out at 18, you started out at 19, but you just took off.
Yeah, it was, I mean, part of it's luck, right? Like I got into real estate at a really good time because nobody wanted anything to do with real estate in 2013.
Yeah.
But I got around the right people. I think that was the most important thing from an early stage in my career. I got around good mentors, and that kind of launched me off, because it would have taken me a lot longer to figure all this stuff out on my own versus getting around these mentors who could coach me, show me the mistakes I'm making right away, so I don't have to sit in this like holding pattern.
Yeah.
And then once I found out what worked, I was like, all right, I don't want to look back and wish I would have worked harder, or wish I would have moved the needle more. So I was like, I'm putting everything in. So dropped out of college, dropped everything to do the real estate thing, and thank God it worked out. And then now we're working on Binzer, which is a prop tech company that I think is going to help a lot of agents navigate through a tough market with a lot of changes.
Yeah. So what was that transition like? You started as an individual agent, you grew a team, that team got you to the point where you're now able to invest your time into a new startup. How is the startup different from running your own individual business where you're growing something much greater than you?
There's a lot of similarities. Like at the end of the day, like what a business needs to do, it needs to bring in enough revenue in a quick enough time.
Yeah.
If you don't bring in revenue in a quick enough time, you're going to fail. So if you're a real estate agent and you're only doing 3 deals a year, you could be at it for 30 years. It's just not enough revenue in a short enough window. And so that's what I realized in real estate was like, I just need to get as many leads in my pipeline as possible. And so it's the same thing with a startup. Like we don't want to have to raise money. We don't want to have to go down that path and give away our company. So our thing is we need to get as many agents on the platform as possible so that we don't have to, like, we don't burn money, in the growth phase. So, everything I've learned from real estate, stand-up comedy, social media and everything, it's all sales, right? When you're doing stand-up comedy, you're selling the audience on a laugh. When you're doing social media, you're selling them on watching the rest of your video. And so I'm just combining all that experience into a sales process now with a new company. And so that's my main role, is just to bring people on the platform.
And what do you think the future is going to look like? Because obviously you're now opening up into new spaces, but it's still linear in the sense of it's all through real estate. Do you want to continue down that path of building businesses, or do you want to focus and build 1 or 2 great businesses?
I want to build 1 or 2 great businesses. So I think Binzer and my real estate team work well together.
Yep.
And then I think the social media will just be good overall for all of my brands.
Yeah.
Right? And so my number 1 focus is building my personal brand. I want to build the social media as big as possible, because I think it's one of the most powerful things a person can do in our day and age. Just like how people say, like, oh, like, X percentage of millionaires got it from real estate.
Exactly.
I think when you fast forward 15 years, like there's going to be a large percentage of millionaires that got it on social media and building an audience.
I mean, there's no better way to hit 1,000 people, 2,000, in your case, hundreds of thousands of people off of 45 seconds. There's no other way you can have that sort of interaction with the people at that scale.
Yeah.
So taking all of that, what are you looking forward to in the future?
So I have a ton of goals. I have a ton of things I'm working on.
Yeah.
But I don't like to spend too much time in the future.
Okay.
Because the saying, they say, like, you don't know the good old days until they're over.
Yep.
Well, the thing I try to do the most is take a step back and realize, like, I'm in the good old days right now.
That's amazing.
And so as much as I'd like to see my son grow and develop, I don't want to miss right now, you know. And as much as I want to see 10 million followers next to my name on social media, I don't want to miss the journey I'm on right now by focusing on, like, you know, that final end goal. And so I just like to be present. I think it's important to have goals and stuff like that, but I don't like to spend too much time
living in the future or the past. So kind of on that, changing the question, what's the most exciting part about your life currently? Because you got a new son, you got a new business, you're in a new car. Seems like things are going really good for you.
Everything's good, which means I'm probably going to get my ass kicked soon by something, right?
No, just keep it going, because you're living in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, dude, it's awesome becoming a dad. Like, a lot of the motivation I had from a young age, like, I grew up without a dad, with a single mom, so I always wanted to have a family with a big life. Like, I've always dreamed of being able to provide a big life for my family. And so now that I'm finally being able to do it, it's like a surreal feeling, you know. Like, you walk in the garage, you see the cars that you want, you've got the house that you want, the girl, and then, you know, thank God we've got a beautiful, healthy baby boy, Joni Jr.
That's amazing.
So he was born a day before my 30th birthday. So we're almost exactly 30 years apart. 4 hours from being 30 years apart.
That's super cool. You're going to be able to celebrate that for so many years to come.
Yeah, it's a huge blessing.
That is. Well, Joni, thank you so much. I really appreciate the insight into the business, the social media, and I can't wait to see what comes in the